Thank you guys for bearing with me and the technical difficulties. So what I wanted to do today for the first class is do a really basic pasta class. And some of the things I'm going to teach you guys today, I learned in cooking school, or I learned after cooking school when I was working as a basics instructor at the school I went to. And some of it might be like totally common knowledge to you, and some of it may not. But I think that if you practice some of these things when you're making pasta at home, it will help take your, basic pantry pasta making dinners to the next level. Even if you're just making spaghetti at home with jarred Rayo's pasta sauce. Hold on, I'm admitting someone to our meeting. I need to figure this out for next time. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is dried pasta, and dried pasta is great. And we always have a ton in our pantry because my kids are pasta fanatics. But these are just like, whatever no-name brands. I think they were probably, $1 each at HEB. This one is 12 ounces of pasta, and this is a pound. We are making, the recipe calls for 12 ounces. And if any of you did not get the recipes emailed to you, email me after this class at marsha@smartinthekitchen.com, and I'll make sure you get those. So we are just using a basic dried pasta today, and I already have the water boiling behind me. And I haven't salted the water yet because I wanted to show you guys how much salt I add. And if you saw this, PG, will you admit that person? If you saw this in class, I don't measure, I just pour it in. But in your recipe, you have a measurement, which I put in kind of as an arbitrary amount, just to give you an idea. I honestly usually just shake it in, but you should have such salty water that it tastes like the ocean. Paige, will you hit the accept on this? So I'm going to put in 2 huge heaping tablespoons of salt. And then you need to hit this. It seems like a lot, and this is about a gallon of water, but you want your pasta water to be so salty that it's like ocean water. And it flavors your pasta and makes it more tasty. Okay, do we hit accept? You have to just keep watching for me. You do not need to add any olive oil or fat to your pot when you're cooking pasta. My mom used to tell me to do that, but it's something that's unnecessary. You just need to heavily salt your water, have your water really boiling. And I've read that you shouldn't add the salt until right before you add the pasta, but I don't think it really matters. If you want to add the salt right when you add the water before it boils, that's fine too. So I'm going to add this into the pot. I thought about breaking it in half, but I want to keep these long for a dish. So I'm just using tongs to bend them into the water. And I wanted to tell you guys that right now, I have hated doing dishes. So I'm showing you how to do this in 2 pots today, but you can definitely do it in 1, which would be great because then you only have to clean 1 pot. So if you are going to do it in 1 pot, you just need to make sure you scoop out some of the pasta water liquid before you drain the pasta to make the sauce in your pot. And I'll explain that as we're making our pasta momentarily. But you want that starchy water. The reason you scoop out some of the pasta water, you want that starchy water because when you add it to your pasta sauce, the flour and the starch from the water help to emulsify, which means bring together your sauce. So having that starchy water mixed in with your sauce just helps bring the sauce together and almost thicken it a little bit. So as our pasta cooks, I'm just going to keep stirring it every once in a while. And I honestly don't pay that much attention to the directions on the package for how long pasta should cook. I just watch it and I see how it looks. It changes color a little bit. You can taste it. Can you accept that? You can taste it to see if it's done. This gives you directions on this package for 10 minutes for al dente. So if you wanted to, what I would recommend is setting a timer for 9 minutes and then tasting it at that point. You want it al dente because you're gonna add this pasta to our sauce when we're done. But like I said, you don't really have to follow the directions on the package of pasta. You can just watch it and taste it as it's cooking. So what we're making today is a Roman pasta called Cacio e Pepe, which just is a basically creamy, cheesy salt and pepper pasta. It's something that's almost like a grown-up version of like when your kids used to order, if you have kids that ordered like butter noodles at restaurants, this is very similar in texture and flavor to butter noodles. What we're going to do is to cook our pasta, make a sauce with just olive oil, pepper, salt, and cheese, and mix that with our pasta. It's so simple, but the saltiness of the cheese adds like a creamy consistency that makes it almost like when I made this for my kids, they said it's almost like Alfredo because it's creamy and saucy, but it has no cream in it. So the cheese in your recipe, you guys have variations for cheese. And right now, I want you to just use whatever you have and be flexible. And also, if you don't have this type of cheese, you could just make this with butter and salt and pepper, and it would be delicious. The recipe gives you 3 options. Pecorino Romano, which I have here, and I tested the recipe with this this weekend. You could use a hard Parmesan and grate it, or you could use a Grana Padano, which is, I'm saying that wrong. It's Grana Padano. Sorry, guys. It's a little bit creamier. These are all hard cheeses, which means they'll last longer in your refrigerator also, which is great right now. But this Grana Padano is a kind of creamier version of Parmesan. It's salty. They're all very salty and it has great sort of nutty flavor. So I'm going to grate a little bit more of this, and I'm using a microplaner to grate this to get a really fine shaving of the cheese. If you want, as a last resort, if this is all you could find, you could use this sort of powdery Parmesan as well. It would work fine. I like the consistency of the freshly grated cheese better. We're going to use this in our any greens pesto in a minute, but you can use that if that's all you have. But your next trip to the grocery store right now, some hard cheese is a great thing to stock up on because it lasts a long time. It adds a ton of flavor to anything you're cooking. And if you do buy Parmesan, don't throw away the rind at the end. Once I get down to this very end of the cheese, I'll save the rind in the refrigerator. And when I'm making my next batch of vegetable soup or tomato sauce or even a bolognese or anything sort of savory and tomato based, I'll tuck that into what I'm making, and it just adds flavor to the whole dish, like a salty umami flavor. So right now I'm gonna stir the pasta for a second. It's not quite there, but while it finishes cooking, I'm gonna warm up the pan. And you guys, this is a great size for this. This is a 9-inch pan. I have a post I can email you guys with some of my kitchen favorites. This is a ceramic Italian pan. It's called a da terra cucina pan. It's nonstick naturally because it's ceramic. I'm using it for this not so much because it's nonstick, but because the size is perfect for the amount of olive oil we're using. But if you need to use a slightly larger pan, like a 11-inch pan, or even if you wanted to use more like a pot like this to make the olive oil, that would be fine. So what we're going to do is cover the base of the pan with olive oil. I gave you guys a measurement. I don't usually measure for this. This is something that's like a 10-minute pasta dish that you can make when you have hungry kids or you're famished after school. PG, will you read the question that just popped up for me? So you guys have the measurement, but I'm covering the base of the pan. You can just close it. So this is over a medium-high heat. It can be medium to medium-high, but you want it warm enough to warm up your olive oil and infuse it with the flavor of the pepper. So I just fill my pepper grinder. This is from Costco. It lasts me a long time. It's just Kirkland brand peppercorns. I'm gonna do about 10 grinds of the pepper. I'm going to turn the heat a tiny bit as the pepper goes in. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because it's starting to pop. I'm just going to swirl the peppercorns and let them warm in the olive oil. Another thing I love to add at this point, which we're not doing today because we're just going to make a very traditional cacio e pepe, is red pepper flakes. And this is the same way I make like a chili oil. If I'm making udon noodles for my kids, I'll fry red chili flakes in some avocado oil if I'm doing like an Asian noodles and I want to toss that chili oil with the noodles. If you want, right now at home, you can make a note on your recipe that you could add a teaspoon of red chili flakes and they would bloom and cook in the oil and just infuse it with chili flavor. It would be delicious. Another thing you could add to this dish when it's done is a little bit of anchovy paste and just mix it in, and it'll give that umami flavor of anchovy without tasting like overtly like fish. You could add pesto, you could add red sauce, you could add anything you want to this. Even just some toasted breadcrumbs and like roasted cauliflower would be delicious with it. But we are making a very simple version just so you guys can see how easy it is to make a delicious pasta from 3 ingredients. Okay, so I'm gonna give this another swirl. I can't quite smell the peppercorns yet, but you'll start to smell like a pepper aroma and it's delicious. Let me see how our pasta is doing. It's just about there, you guys. So I'm gonna scoop out some of the pasta water. Hold on while I get a measuring cup really quickly. Okay, I had to reach in the back of my cupboard to get a glass measuring cup. I like to scoop the water with a glass measuring cup. Most of my measuring cups are OXO plastic measuring cups, and I don't love putting the plastic in the hot boiling water. I'm gonna add, I need about a half a cup, but I took a little more just in case. And you guys can see it's starchy and it has some of that flour from the pasta in the water. And this is like liquid gold when you're making pasta sauce. Even if you were just warming up like a bolognese sauce that you had made and tucked away in the freezer and you're heating it back up. When you warm it on the pan, if you're making pasta, put about 1/4 of a cup of this starchy liquid in just to kind of break it up and then bring it back together. It's just an emulsifier. It brings all those flavors together. So I have our pasta water. I'm gonna start taking chunks of the pasta straight from the water into the olive oil. Okay. I'm adding my pasta water. And don't worry, guys, if it seems like it's really a lot of water and a lot of moisture. The water will evaporate, and what's left behind is that floury, starchy liquid and the olive oil and the pepper. So now I'm gonna grab a handful of my grated cheese and leave a little bit behind for my garnish, and I'm gonna sprinkle this on and keep tossing the pasta. Just a little bit at a time while you're sort of lifting the pasta and coating it in the sauce. Then just keep lifting and coating it. My sauce is getting really creamy from the cheese. And we're almost done, and I'll show you guys the finished product. If I was making this at home for dinner, I would let it go a little bit longer because there's a little bit more liquid to evaporate, but it's honestly gonna soak into the pasta and be good enough. So I'm hoping you guys can see this. It's just really silky, and in the base, there's just a little bit of a creamy olive oil sauce, tons of pepper, and then to finish it, I would add just a little bit more crunchy sea salt, and I'm going to show you guys the salts I use in a second, but this is just a Maldon sea salt. The cheese is salty, so we don't really need this Maldon, but I always love finishing everything with Maldon. So this I'm going to set aside. It smells so good. I hope you guys try this at home because it's literally so simple. And those couple of techniques give you a really good pasta at home. Okay, really quick to show you my salts, and then I'm gonna show you the Any Greens pasta. These are the salts I use all the time. This is Diamond Crystal kosher salt, which can be difficult to find sometimes. In Houston, if you're local to Houston, Rice Epicurean carries it sometimes. Central Market carries it. And when I find it, I get like 4 boxes and literally poured it even before quarantine times. But you can also order it from Amazon. You can order this Maldon salt from Amazon as well. And it is a really beautiful flaky sea salt that's like a pyramid shape. And I finish almost every grilled meat or roasted vegetable with it. Hold on one second. I had to clear my throat from the pepper in there. This I also buy from Amazon because it's a great value for the salt and it doesn't go bad. Salt is a preservative, so dry salt by itself can stay in your pantry for a long time. I love this company, Redmond Real Salt, makes a variety of awesome salts and products. I use their seasoning salt a lot, their garlic salt, and then this finely ground salt. You can see it's almost like a pink color. I use this for baking a lot and just for all-purpose cooking as well. So I always have these 3 out on my counter. I do want to show you guys really quickly because I'm going to make this to keep on hand for my family. A really versatile recipe for any greens pesto. And I think you guys can see that. If I can reach the plug to plug it in. Okay, it literally just fits. Okay, so you guys hopefully have the recipe for this, but I'm going to talk you through it just so you know how versatile it is. You can change almost any component of this and make a delicious, flavorful sauce that you use for pasta to put on roast chicken or salmon or a random assortment of roasted vegetables that you want a little sauce to punch up after you make them. So I already have some pine nuts in here, but in your recipe you have a bunch of variations. You could use raw almonds that you toast or don't toast, whichever way is fine. You could use pecans, which in Texas in the South, Some of you may have pecans from farms or ranches you go to. It's delicious in this. Walnuts are great in this. You could even use sunflower seeds. Almost any type of nut works well, and I've tried almost all of them except peanuts, which are really technically legumes, and I don't love the flavor of hazelnuts in this. So we are using pine nuts. We're gonna use today some beautiful spinach that I have from Farmhouse Delivery, which we're gonna put right in. A tightly packed handful is about a cup. This is probably about a cup and a half. And I'm gonna add some kale, but I've washed all of these already. We do want to take the kale off the stem. So just get it started a little bit and then pull it right off the stem. That one did not work very well, but I'll show you on the next one. Okay. So just pull it off. So a little bit more kale. And you could use, this isn't your recipe, but you could use anything. Like in my garden, I have Swiss chard right now. I was gonna go cut some of that to put in here, but I honestly just ran out of time before the class. You could cut parsley. If you have basil, great, use it, it would be amazing. My basil is just starting to grow, so I didn't quite have enough to make a flavor difference. So I'm saving it more for like garnish and things where I just need a little bit of basil. Arugula would be great. The tops of your carrot top greens are really fresh and bright and would be delicious in this. What else? Really so many different types of greens. I feel like I'm forgetting some. Swiss chard, basil, spinach, arugula, kale. I think that about covers it. Okay, so I really wish you guys could see this better, but I'm just adding one garlic clove. And what I'm gonna do is cut off one end on my board, the other end, and then I'm gonna smash it. And when you cut off the ends before you smash it, the skin releases easier. So just smash the garlic clove with that thick part of the knife. So I'm gonna throw that in. You don't really have to chop it since you're using a food processor. I'm using this Parmesan. It calls for a lot of Parmesan. You guys can cut it down. I'm going to today because I want to save some of this Parmesan to use for my kids because they love it on pasta. So I added a half of a cup. I have some lemon here, which brightens up the flavor of the sauce. I did get, the last time I was at HEB, I stashed away a glass container of lemon juice and a glass container of lime juice in my pantry. I have some fresh limes and lemons right now, but I wanted that as backup in case I end up not being able to find them later. Okay, so we have our nuts, we have cheese, the greens, garlic. I'm gonna wait to add the lemon juice in a second. So the trick to this, you guys, is you just wanna pulse it on and off to get this all kind of evenly chopped up before you add your liquids. There's one little piece of spinach caught in the lid. It smells good. Okay, I'm opening it up. I can. I always fight with this thing. I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon juice, just to squeeze. You have a measurement if you wanna follow it. But we're gonna taste this when we're done and we'll know for sure if we need to add more. So then the amount of olive oil, you guys, is a half cup to 3/4 of a cup. If you wanna keep the olive oil down, just add half of a cup. And if you need to thin it out a little bit more, add water for the rest of your liquid. So this, you guys know I love Old Country olive oil. That's what I'm using for this. Okay, so I just put it in until the sauce comes together. It's a little thick, so you can always, I might add some more lemon juice or water, but I want to taste it and see how the salt is and the acidity before I get the liquid variation right where I want it. It's really good. I think it needs more lemon juice because kale and spinach are both a little bit flat in flavor. So this just brightens it up a little bit. And I am going to add one more little bit of olive oil, and then it's good. For you guys, this, if you're not going to use it right away, put it in a glass container, even out the surface on top, and then pour a thin layer of olive oil on top of that surface to make sure oxygen doesn't get like oxidize the herbs and turn them black. So if you do that, it'll help to keep the pesto from turning black. I'm gonna just see if you guys have any questions because I saw some chats pop up. Okay, so if you guys have any questions right now, I'm gonna pull up the chat feature and let me know if there's anything specific you have questions about. I know this is a very basic class. I wanted to do something really simple to start with because I was a little nervous about this Zoom format, and I think I'll be able to work out some kinks for next time. But this Sunday, if you're not signed up, I'm doing a taco night class with some tricks for making better just homemade taco meat for tacos. So I have a few questions in here. Where did I buy the cheese? That's a really good question. So the cheese I used, I got at HEB. I'll show you guys. I've had it for a while, like 2 weeks, and it's Grana Padano, like I said. And it's just Marco Polo brand. It's nothing fancy. It's in the deli area. And I also got this Pecorino Romano at HEB, and the Parmesan I think I had got at Whole Foods. Okay, someone asked if I would repeat why I like glass measuring cups for this. It's only because when you're putting the measuring cup into the very hot boiling pasta water, I don't want the plastic to melt or to give off any of the plastic chemicals into the water. I'm sure you're dipping it so fast that that's not really going to happen, but I'm just being extra careful. And someone did say Penzeys Spices carries, don't mind my dog, carries the big box of diamond crystal, which is really good to know. And you can order Penzeys online also. Oh my gosh, my dog gets jealous when I'm talking. Okay, the pesto, you guys, keeps a long time. If you keep it in your refrigerator, I would use it within 5 days just because it'll start to oxidize. But if you freeze it, I have some in little glass mason jars that I've had in there for a couple months. And I had some in there from last summer with basil from my garden that I had in there since June. And we had it with dinner a couple weeks ago and it was delicious. So it will freeze for a while. But like I said, put it in the glass jar, put a thin layer of olive oil on top, and then cover it. And when you freeze it, even though you think you're gonna remember it's pesto, put pesto on. I keep masking tape in a kitchen drawer with a Sharpie. Pesto and the date, then you know when you made it and what it is. What was the first salt you keep on hand? Oh, it was diamond crystal. Someone's asking that. So the Maldon sea salt is a finishing salt. It's very flaky, amazing to finish off any meal. Redmond real salt, I love. They're just such a wonderful company. And then diamond crystal is an awesome kosher salt that most chefs use. And then my favorite olive oil, someone's asking and said they missed that. You guys, Old Country olive oil, I don't know if it's going to show up backwards on your screen, is locally owned by a family in Memorial, and $5 of every bottle goes to the MS Society because the amazing woman that runs the company has MS and has such a giving heart and just gives back. And I love that. My sister has MS also, so I love supporting their company, but also mostly because their olive oil is like the most delicious thing you've ever had. It's farmed by hand from her grandmother's land in Lebanon, and they don't spray, and it's unfiltered. So since it's unfiltered, it has this amazing dark color, It's cold pressed, which means it's not heated. So all of those healthy enzymes are left in the oil. So you guys, thank you. I think that's it. If anyone has any other questions or suggestions for topics that you would like to cover, I'm so thankful and happy to do this. I miss my cooking class people so much. So sorry, I'm not going to. Thank you guys so much. I'm signing off before I get emotional.